What is up, guys? It is the Sports Star Bradley Walker, and welcome to the Walker Report, part of NGSC Sportscast. Remember the website, it's ngscsports.com for all your current sports content. So part of Snowman Multimedia Sports, the Game Winner Sports Network, Mancini Media, and the Sports Alliance of America Incorporated. Happy Thursday, guys. Welcome in. We're getting ready to wind down the month of January. Actually, this is the last show of January. Next week will be February. We have two sponsors on the show, guys. We have CreatingZenSpaces.com. It is the local choice for St. Petersburg, Florida, for house cleaning, organization, decluttering, and pet sitting. It's about finding the peace within you and adding comfort to your life. Be kind to yourself and one another. We are also sponsored by We're also sponsored by Fun-Wags.com. Born from a near tragedy when the Fun Wag mascots had a bad reaction from a store brand treat. We do make treats that you can pronounce with just 3 ingredients. Head on over to Fun-Wags.com to try these treats because our fur babies deserve the best. Head on over to Fun-Wags.com to do that. All right, guys, welcome in. You see me looking at the TV screen. I am watching the Lightning play the Coyotes. Let me welcome in 2 of my 3 great co-hosts. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thanks. Good evening. Well, I've got on the Knicks game on my computer, so
Cool beans. How are they doing?
right now they're beating up on Denver.
Nice. Okay. I think I saw something today. That was it. The kid in Dallas. Not Jokic. He's in Denver. Donovan or whatever his name. Who's the superstar in Dallas? Yeah, he was.
Luka.
He got some fan got ejected or something, and he was upset about it. Or
he was. He called for the fans. He called for the fans ejection. I had the article up here. This could be like ridiculous item number 1 for my show next week. Oh boy. So anyway, yeah.
I'm here, but I'm getting set up.
The Mavericks are requesting a fan be removed in the 4th quarter against the Suns, which they were losing, winning by 16 earlier. With the Mavericks down by double digits, he pointed out a fan to security and started with all the trash talking. He said, "Luka, you look tired. You good for nothing piece of it. Go back to the treadmill."
wow.
And then the whole thing, this guy hands. So he was trash talking throughout the whole game up to that point. And Luke was like, "That's I've had enough. Get this bum out of here." So it sounds more like what's known as a personal abuse, because it's basically what it is.
Well, I don't know if that's the most ridiculous thing I've heard in the NBA this week, or them firing the head coach in Milwaukee.
That is ridiculous.
You have a winning record. You're a year or 2 years removed from your NBA championship, and you're fired.
Right.
What is going on?
Yeah, I was baffled out by myself. I'm like, I would imagine. Now look, I would imagine if it was between the San Antonio Spurs and the Detroit Pistons, of course, they deserve to get fired. They deserve to fire the whole team for all I care, because they just completely suck. But how do you explain a team that has 30-50? This happened with the Cleveland Cavaliers not that long ago either. They had a great record.
2015.
And they fired their coach too. You cannot fire your coach that's that good unless it's something of a personal matter. Like something horrible happened, like you insulted his dog or something or whatnot. But you don't fire a coach that's giving you a great season for no reason at all. He said, "Oh, he's just not the right man for our team." How can you possibly say that?
Well, I mean, is it a GM thing? Is that what it was, Lou? That he's not getting along?
Yeah, the brass. He said it was the brass. Oh, we didn't feel he was the right. Yeah, then why'd you hire him, stupid? You did the same thing with your coach last year. Okay, yeah, you got ousted in the first round of the playoffs, but you fired him after what he's done for you, giving you a championship. The prices before. I mean, there is something wrong with the staff on some of these teams. They're not making legitimate decisions on how you fire him, and you keep the Pistons coach.
Yeah.
I think you go figure that out.
I mean,
the Pistons are.
That shocked me when I heard that come out earlier this week. I'm like, and you're my NBA guy, Lou. So I'm like, I gotta ask him what's going on with what happened with that.
Well,
I mean,
according to
I see if you go ahead.
Because I was looking at it from yesterday, and they said that there was some other reason why they got fired, which I still don't think made a lot of sense. Because I mean, he didn't do anything really, that was wrong or whatnot, but you still fired him. Look, if you're like I said, Denver or the Pistons or not Denver, but San Antonio, the Pistons or whatnot. So I mean, because they deserve that, but you don't fire someone who is giving you, a great season and can overtake first place, unless there's something horrific happened. But other than that, there was no need to fire him. There was absolutely none. There's
and no offense, but you go and hire Doc Rivers. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
His
track record hasn't been the greatest either here recently.
No.
So
he'll get fired.
If I was the other guy, I'd be shopping my story right now.
Yeah.
Because I'd be writing a tell-all book, and I'd be naming names, and I'd burn every bridge. I'd burn every bridge with Milwaukee.
Yes.
I feel like because I read an article about an incident that happened earlier in the year with him and an assistant coaching a player. There was an altercation, and he was just screaming. He had a full-on scream, like a married couple having a domestic, is from what I understand from the way that the article I was reading. And I understand where Lou's coming from, but okay. I also think I also not to defend not to justify or defend the management's decision, but when you're the boss and you don't get along with an employee, it is the perks of being the boss. If Brad decided he didn't like us and said, he doesn't want to work with us anymore.
I mean, look.
Yeah,
I didn't get like half my coworkers, but I'm here to do a job. You're to do your job. You got to put your pride aside, even though you can't stand them. Okay, that's just how it is. You're not getting along with the team, with the general manager, and whatnot. But you got to fire him. And what I said with the general manager, John Horst, he said, "Well, besides the fact I hate your guts, no.
Right. Yeah.
He declined to comment why Griffin was fired, but he said a decline in defense and so-called analytic measures might have convinced the brass that Griffin was not the right man for the job." What?
Yeah, but again, like I said, if you don't get along with the boss, and the boss decides he wants you out the door, there ain't much you can. Regardless, you could be the best employee that has ever been employed at that company. You could be the greatest Walmart door greeter in the history of door greeters. And if your boss doesn't like you, he doesn't has to have a reason to fire you. He can just walk in one day and say, "We don't need your services anymore. Here's your pink slip. Have a nice day." He just, and if the guy is a good basketball coach, there'll be opportunities. It may take him a couple years to rebuild his career, and that's unfortunate. But there are going to be opportunities. He can go down to the college level. He can take a college job for a couple of years and rebuild his reputation. And maybe he is a prick. Maybe he's just an unlikable prick, and nobody wanted to play for him. Because in some of their losses that Milwaukee has had,
we all come across that. We all come across pricks like that.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that in some of the losses that Milwaukee's had, the teams quit on him. They quit playing defense, and love him or hate him, Doc Rivers plays defense. Doc Rivers knows how to coach defensive basketball. Love him or hate him, Doc Rivers can get the best out of defensive basketball. And Doc Rivers had been waiting in the wings and hanging around. And like I said on Gerald's show on Tuesday night when this thing first went down, you know, Milwaukee may have been sitting there looking at it going, we're 30-13, and this was on. I don't know if they played last night or if they're playing tonight, but we're 30-13, and we've gotten shelled in some of these. Some of these losses have been just abysmal. And like I was saying, it's really easy to beat up on the bad teams. You play the Pelicans, you play the Pistons, you play the Bobcats, you play the Wizards, the artists formerly known as the Bullets. And, you play those teams 15 or 20 or you get 30 games against those teams or 40 games against those teams, and of course you look really good. You look really good, but then you get in against Denver and Dallas and OKC. And I'm not saying that I know because I'm not a big basketball guy, but, those are just looking at the Timberwolves. You get in against Boston, and you get beat 105, 115, 105,
right,
115-99, 123, 101. And what that tells me, and I'm just, obviously I don't have the numbers, these are just reckless speculations on my part, but what that tells me is that when you get in against good teams, you're getting the brakes beat off you, because you don't want to, because it's fun to play against bad teams that you just outmatch in all three phases of the game. Offense, defense, special teams. And you can when the 3-point shot is going in and you're 12 for 20 from three, and you're 54% from the field, and you've got and you're banging bodies and you're in there and you're getting 20 or 30 free throws a night. And it's a lot of fun to play basketball. But then when you're going to get good teams, you're going to get hard competition, the kind of teams you're going to face in the playoffs, and you're not elevating your game to that next level, that all stems from the head coach's ability to get the guys up for those good games against the good teams. And Milwaukee may, I don't know, again, reckless speculation on my part, but Milwaukee may have decided to pull the trigger now to see what they have, because you're not going to get rid of Giannis. You're not getting rid of who do they bring? Lillard. You're not moving off those guys. You're not getting rid of those guys. Or maybe they might make a move at the deadline to get somebody. But I figure I would think that Giannis. Go ahead.
I was going to say they traded Chris Middleton. They already traded Chris Middleton already, so they got rid of him.
Right. And that may have been that they may have gotten rid of Middleton because him and the coach didn't get along. And then 2 or 3 weeks later they realized that Middleton wasn't the problem. The coach was the problem. And I understand from the outside looking in, the thing is even, we're just guys on our couches. Well, I'm a guy on my couch. But we don't know the day-to-day runnings of the team and how contentious that locker room is. And yeah, it may seem odd sitting here on a Thursday night in the middle of the season and the coach has already been fired. On a good team, I could see a team, it would make sense if you were like 20-20, 22-22. Yeah, okay, you want to make a change now. You've got Doc Rivers waiting in the wings. We're going to pull the trigger. That would make sense. But a team that's 14 games over 500, 2 games out of first place, it doesn't seem to make sense. But then again,
no, it doesn't.
But then again, we don't know. And like I said, if your boss decides he doesn't want you around anymore, you're gone.
Yeah.
Unless your boss is Jerry Jones and you kiss the ring.
I think a soccer player would.
As long as it's not Draymond.
Yeah.
Draymond will fight you and your mother.
And your grandmother.
You dig her up too if he has to.
Maybe a great grandmother.
Yeah. He'll fight your whole family line.
Yeah. And so on and so on.
No, I
You love it.
was just kind of shocked and taken by that firing. But Adam could be right. We don't know what goes on in house. Like, we always assume that the person getting fired is the victim. You know what I mean? We don't know
Yeah.
what is going on behind closed doors. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Maybe he was he was an asshole and no one wanted to play for him. So they said, okay, well, bye. We'll get rid of you.
later.
We'll bring our players back and go win another championship. Blue, are they the number one team in the East?
Number 2
overall?
2. Boston's first.
Number 2. Okay. Oh, the Celtics. Okay.
And like, yeah, and like I said, it's easy to beat up on the bad teams. It's easy to go for 30-14 if 70% of your games are against crummy teams, and you can just out skill. But when you get in against good teams that aren't that have the skill to match up, and you're you're 22-8 against good teams, but you're only 8-6, or 22-8 against bad teams, but you're only 8-6 against good teams. That spells that's a recipe for defeat in the playoffs, because you're not going to get the Pelicans in the playoffs. You might get out of round 1. You'll get the 8th seed, and the 8th seed is an average basketball team, an average to good basketball team, right? But then after the first round, you're going to catch if you get lucky, you're going to get 7. And the worst case scenario, the more likely scenario, you're going to get 4 or 5. And so that's the 4th best team in your conference. And if you're consistently losing to the top 3 or top 5 or top 6 teams in the league, in your conference, or even in the league, and we're such an analytics-driven sports society right now, where we make decisions based upon the numbers, and people, because of Moneyball and the success that the A's had by analytics, which is true and untrue, because they had a lot of success for about a year and a half with analytics. And yes, of course, you can win a lot of games against crummy teams with analytics. You can match up well against average or below average or poor teams. But then at the end of the day, when you get against the best teams, when you go up against the Yankees, you're getting hammered 4-1.
Right.
And Milwaukee, the upper management, the analytics people, the assistant coaches, and I expect, if I was a fan of Milwaukee, I would expect everybody to be doing their due diligence on the analytics and studying and understanding and knowing. And so I expect them to I hope that this wasn't a rash decision. This wasn't a 3 o'clock in the morning, third pot of coffee trick. We're going to fool them kind of move.
That's not using good judgment.
Where they had, because like Jerry, not to pick on Jerry Jones, but to pick on Jerry Jones, a getting hammered at the bar, anybody can coach this team decision, and firing a future Hall of Famer at the height of his power, because your ego is too big to just let the football people do football things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or in this case, basketball.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're getting close to the All-Star break, right, Lou? They're getting ready to draw the All-Star, right? This weekend, right? I think they're drawing the All-Star team lineups this weekend.
They should be, yes.
So, yeah, I was
And
reading.
when it,
I had a pages of notes and I forgot to send them back to my email. So I'm going by a whim. I had them and I didn't send them to myself. So yeah,
I've done it too.
but that was the. It's just it just. I was stunned. I was shocked. I was surprised. But at the end of the day, and I'll harp on this until I'm dead. And it goes for all leagues, and it's all kinds of, it's all decisions. It's why being any kind of professional is so hard, and especially at the highest level of your profession, is that you have to, just because I remember 10 years ago now, 8 years ago, whenever it was, when Friese and Suter were on the market, and everybody was, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? And like, oh, I hope they come to my team. Or why didn't we go get that guy? And then not just those two, but there's the names that stick out in my mind. And it's easy for us to say, well, why didn't they go get that guy? Well, why did they give him a call? And you don't, yeah, if your agent, because all these guys have agents, if your agent calls if the team calls your agent says, the player's agent says, I have no interest in you guys, okay, you just hang up and move on with life. Because you're not going to spend time and energy to try and woo someone that says he has no interest, because it's not worth your time. And yes, it'd be great to have these superstar players come to your squad, but if you can't get that guy, whether it doesn't matter what sport you play, if that guy doesn't want to play on your team, if he doesn't like, he doesn't want to play in your city because your city's old or ugly, or he's from Ohio and he won't play in Detroit, or he's from Oakland and he's he doesn't want to go play it out in Vegas because he's still mad about he's mad about the Raiders moving. He won't go play for the Raiders because he hates the Raiders,
right?
And because they moved away from Oakland. It could be the pettiest of petty things. He doesn't like the color blue. He doesn't want to play because you have blue uniforms.
He doesn't want to play because he thinks your dog is ugly.
Yeah.
Or in the case,
maybe he doesn't want to play for you because he thinks your daughter's. Maybe he doesn't want to play because he's dating your daughter. He's dating the daughter of the owner of the team. He doesn't want to come play there.
Yeah.
Maybe he just likes the challenge of playing against your team. Maybe he goes to that division because he grew up in Missouri.
Nothing wrong with that.
He grew up in Alabama. He doesn't want to play for Kansas City. He wants to play for Denver so he can go out and beat Kansas City. It could be the silliest of silly reasons, the pettiest of petty reasons. And we'll never know. We'll never know because yeah, we gave him a call. We gave his agent a call, and his agent said no and hung up.
Yeah, well, that sounds too stupid. And Denver's getting killed.
So,
wow.
Sure, I got to ask you a question, buddy. You got the Royal Rumble coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Any predictions?
In what's it? I'm trying to think over here. The unified champion that Roman Reigns has. He's going into that fatal four-way. I'm going to say Randy takes that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he'll drop the belt this Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped the belt this Saturday. I'll agree with you on that.
And the Women's World Rumble, I'm going to give it to Bianca Belair.
Okay.
I had something here.
The men's Royal Rumble. Oh boy, I hate to say this, but I think CM Punk's going to take it.
Yeah.
I can see that. I
And,
agree.
and this was just breaking earlier today. Cody Rhodes will not be at WrestleMania.
Oh, is he okay?
Yeah, WrestleMania.
He's okay, but he's just not going to be headlining it.
Yeah.
And he's
Interesting.
he's not going to finish his story.
Huh.
That sucks.
Well, I mean, the Royal Rumble is taking place at Tropicana Field where the Tampa Bay Rays play baseball. So I haven't been in downtown St. Pete this week to see what it's like. I believe Ralph applied for a credential for us, and I didn't. I don't know how the WWE does their credentials. I don't know if they have their own in-house media or they don't have a lot of outside media to come to their events. I'm not 100% sure, but they are. It is a Tropicana Field where the Rays play, so there's a lot of people. They were giving away tickets to the Royal Rumble all week on the radio, so they were giving them away all week. So,
Yeah.
I suspect there'll be some wrestling this.
Because the way I look at it with, in that Fatal 4-Way, Roman Reigns and AJ Styles are going to be beating the shit out of each other all over that arena. Because AJ's got a score to settle with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, blood and guts.
And
don't forget about LA Knight because he's got a beef with all three of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think LA Knight really take it out on Randy.
Randy, the thing about Randy Orton is he's smart. Randy's smart. So.
And don't forget that Roman Reigns doesn't have to be pinned to lose the belt.
No. You're correct.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think it'll be somebody else will get the pin to win, so that Roman can drop the belt without a loss, and then he can have his storyline with
Rock.
The Rock at Mania.
Yeah, because The Rock's out. Because if you watch one episode of it, The Rock was in a ring. He was saying, that he was hungry, and he doesn't know if he should sit at the table, the bar, or at the head of the table.
Mm-hmm.
The table.
And that got me to thinking: is he going after Roman Reigns?
It's been a long time coming.
And if y'all don't know this, Roman Reigns and The Rock are cousins.
Yep.
Right.
And there's
hence why he has
There's something about Jey Uso that I can't put my finger on right now.
Yeah, I think the problem with the Usos is they're miserable pricks. They're just not fun guys.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you who I really like in the WWE, and that's R-Truth.
He's in.
R-Truth.
He's tied up with whatchamacallit, Judgment Day.
He's driving the Judgment Day crazy. Is what he's doing.
Yes.
He's having those guys bonkers.
I think the problem with the Usos is they're not likable, right? You know what I mean? Like, even the best bad guys, are even you end up rooting for them in spite of the fact that you're not intended to. The great bad guys, even Vince McMahon, even when Vince was having his heel turn at the end of the 90s and during the Attitude Era, he was so likable. he might have been the boss and the bad guy, and you rooted against him, but he was still a likable character. And I just don't think I think that the WWE and the writing and how they're presenting the bad guys right now, they don't present the bad guys as likable characters where you hate them but you love to hate them. Like when Randy was doing his heel bit, he was likable. He was a bad guy. You rooted against him, but you loved to root against him because he was such a great entertainer. He was so entertaining.
Yeah.
I think that's been lost in the bad guys because they make all the bad guys just unlikable. Albert, oh God, help me here. Del Rio.
Who?
Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alberto Del Rio.
He wasn't likable. Yeah, he was a bad guy. Yeah, he flaunted his money. Ezekiel. Yeah, he flaunted his money. The one prick that comes out there, oh, they brought him back. He had been gone in this Middle East. Jinder Mahal comes out there and just dogging the crowd out. Talking about how he's going to, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And he's so much better than everybody.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, Vince McMahon seems to think that's going to get these guys over. And it never does. They're just not likable. And then Rock comes out, and it's the biggest pop in 15 years. Rock's music hits, and he comes out.
Speaking of,
The Miz is.
Go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
The Miz has been kind of this gray area, sometimes heel, sometimes face kind of character. And kind of they love him or hate him kind of character, right? You either love the Miz or you hate the Miz. Nothing in between. I've never met a person that's into WWE that goes, oh yeah, the Miz is okay. You either love him or you hate him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the problem with some of these guys. There's too many factions. There's too many crews. There's not enough singles competition. And there's not enough individuals to really build storylines around where you can have the belts be moved off. There's too many egos. Like Brock Lesnar, I know Brock Lesnar is. I never really liked Brock Lesnar. I respect Brock Lesnar. He's a hard worker. He's easy to work with. Everybody loves him as a performer and as a worker, and he's a great heel. But he's likable. He's a likable dude. When you see him away from the ring, or you see him in interviews, or when he's just being his big dumb meathead self, he's likable. He's a likable character, even though you root against him, or maybe you root for him. There are a lot of people that when Lesnar beats the streak, he goes over because he's not a douche. And I think that's the big problem with the Usos is they're just douchebags, and I think that's a big problem for the WWE universe is that the old time bad guys like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Jake the Snake Roberts, and they were bad guys, right? You rooted for Hogan to beat them, but they weren't miserable, insufferable pricks the whole time they were out on TV. The other thing that I think hurts is too much WWE. There's too much time to fill in a 3-hour block where you have too much talking segments that aren't setting up feuds, that aren't progressing the storyline, that aren't engaging the audience in interesting, creative ways that make the product worth watching. And I think that's true in all of the WWE, or all the wrestling promotions. And I don't know what it would take to get, because I think the window for WWE to be or just wrestling in general, to be as red hot as it was 20 or 30 years ago now, has closed. I don't think you'll ever see wrestling. I don't think you'll see the culture, the cultural phenomenon that was wrestling at the end of the 90s, the beginning of the aughts, in the early 2000s, where everybody and their brother had some kind of WWE merch, or we're talking about the guys.
Yes.
I don't talk to my buddies about wrestling unless it's to reminisce about the days of yore, whether it be talking to older folks and talking about the 80s, or talking to some of my peers and talking about the late 90s and early 2000s, the great matches that we remember, whether it be talking about like WrestleMania 3 or Andre the Giant or Hogan and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Iron Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter and I could rattle off a jillion names of the late 80s, early 90s stars, or the late 90s and early 2000s stars. Yeah, the Four Horsemen, the Rockers, guys that burned hot and stayed hot for extended periods. I just don't think. I think the culture. I think the culture has shifted, and the entertainment.
Evolution.
The entertainment has evolved, and people aren't. The death of cable is something we were talking about. I think it was on your show last week, Gerald, or maybe it was here. I don't remember exactly. But the death of cable, and the fact that you don't have a captive audience for 2 hours on a Monday night, or an hour or two on Friday night, or an hour on Sunday night, or Sunday Night Heat, or whatever.
Right.
You don't have that audience that if you want to watch something, you have so much other stuff you're competing with streaming and with video games and with apps. That, like, in the late 90s, if you wanted to watch something, you had to have cable. If you wanted something more than just what you could get on mainstream TV on over-the-air broadcast, you had to have cable. And so you had that audience that was there no matter what. Every Monday night, they were watching Nitro, they were watching Raw. They were watching Nitro, they were watching Raw. They were watching Nitro, they were watching Raw. And as when the WCW collapsed, imploded upon itself, and WWE was more than happy to scoop up the pieces that they wanted, and tried to do some things with that. And there was no competition. There was no other things going on. And as things happened from 2001, and you had 9/11, you had the Afghanistan invasion, the Iraq invasion, the shifting of the cultural zeitgeist away from violence as entertainment into and taking violence from TV and putting it into your hands, right? You didn't have to watch TV anymore. You could play video games and do the things in a different way. Whereas, where violence was entertainment, and people, not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but the point I'm trying to get at is, and then the downturn in the economy, the Great Recession, and then people becoming more socially conscious in the last, and the things that were allowed, the TNA that was allowed in the 90s is just not socially acceptable anymore. And the other things that we have learned about steroid use and about concussions and about those moves that guys you couldn't throw. You couldn't have two grown men climb to the top of two goofy looking dudes. Let's be honest. Undertaker and Mankind are goofy looking dudes with goofy gimmicks. You can't have them climb up a 2-story cage and throw each other off of it because it's just too dangerous. It's just stupid dangerous.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the toning down of the violence and the moving away from those high flying moves that were so big and doing huge spots has changed the wrestling game. And you watch it. I know you pretty much watch every week there, Gerald. Or you watch on a fairly regular basis. the move sets that people do now are completely different than they were at the height of the WWE's power. And I think that's really, there's a lot more controlled violence. There's a lot more things that happen. You don't have the steel chairs. Every now and again, they'll break out a steel chair. They'll bring out a weapon. The weapons have moved. They moved away from weapons. They don't cut. They don't bleed anymore. They don't do things that they used to do, where they don't use blood packs. Some guys back in the day took, you tape a razor blade under your sleeve, rip it off, quick cut, and now because your forehead bleeds really easily, they come up for it. They take a shot, go down, and now they're bleeding everywhere. Sometimes it was real. Sometimes it was real. I'm not saying every time they bladed, but guys used to do things like that where they cut themselves and they would bleed, or they do, they have blood packs. And then you burst the blood pack in your mouth, and all of a sudden you had a mouthful of blood. And that stuff just doesn't fly on. I hate to say it from network television, because on basic cable, that kind of stuff doesn't fly on basic cable. And guys like, looking at the older guys, Mick Foley's messed up, and he's still alive. He's messed up. Mark Calloway is gonna, he's messed up. That's the Undertaker. Austin's messed up. Kane's messed up. Look at all the guys that died young from headshots and steroid abuse. I think the other thing that
one of them.
That was exactly where I was going to go with that, is Chris Benoit really changed the way WWE looks at how they present their shows, because they moved away from that as when the Benoit story broke and more came out about his drug use and his abuse of drugs and his descent into madness, for want of a better term. And the fact that we know getting hit in the head isn't really good for your health. So you don't see those kind of move sets anymore.
No.
No, I remember.
And
I remember when I first started watching wrestling. It was Mick Foley, and I don't remember who it was, but Mick Foley had a bat wrapped in had a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire.
Yeah.
And
was that Piper?
Back to Randy Orton. Even when he was a heel,
Oh yeah,
I liked him, because that song that they play, his theme music. I hear voices in my head.
Yeah.
You actually.
That's my favorite Red Theory song.
It wouldn't surprise me if he actually does hear voices in his head. As many injuries and headshots he's taken.
Yeah, you buy it though, and that's what makes the great characters, right?
I remember
The legend killer.
It was Mick Foley and Terry Funk.
Okay, yep.
Terry Funk just passed.
Were hardcore legends, man. I mean, every time they had a match, they would go out there and they would beat the living snuff out of each other.
Absolutely.
And that's a great point there, Brad. Terry Funk died. He was only like 54. He wasn't an old guy. He was a young guy, but they did so many terribly dangerous spots. And I know you can go and you find clips of the WCW guys on, I forget, I think it was Tony Danza's show, but I don't remember now. And they're going on about how they can hit each other with steel chairs and hit each other with bats and sledgehammers and weapons, and it's safe, and it's like, yeah, but all it takes is one miss, and you've got a concussion. You got a grade 3 concussion.
Look at Warrior. He was like 55 or 56 when he died.
Yeah, he was and he was messed up from the trauma. He had demons though.
Big
Dude
Vader.
was
Big
Yep.
Vader. I mean,
well, Vader was.
You guys were talking about.
so many great ones because of the injuries they sustained in the ring. But back then, like Adam was saying, WWE really didn't know much about the concussions and the effect that steroids would have. But now, they know more about it and they monitor it.
Let's be honest here. They settled lawsuits about it.
Yeah. And a lot of fans don't realize this. But these athletes, these wrestlers, they do go through random drug tests.
Yeah. They used to look the other way.
How can we think?
But you were.
Matt Riddle's in rehab because of drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And
But
until he gets totally clean.
But I think that I don't think no. I mean, they used to use hard drugs backstage too, but it's really not the hard drugs that they're. It's not just the hard drugs. No. Because I think I understand what I'm trying to say now. It'd be helpful if I could tell it to you guys, but
because when you have pain, yeah, they go. You're gonna want like morphine, codeine, stuff like that.
Right.
And
it's not just that.
And that stuff will interfere with your performance in the ring.
Well, it's not just that.
You got performance enhancing drugs now.
Yes.
Oh, they've always see back in the day, because it's what the big lawsuit was in the early '90s was over the performance enhancing drugs. It wasn't over the steroids, or not. Sorry, the cocaine. It wasn't the coke use that they were worried about, because they were on the they're on the road 300, 320, 340 days a year. And so it's a downer. You drink to go to bed. You wake up, you do a bump, you do your day, you take a drink to go to bed. It was the constant on the road, the hard life, the hard schedule.
Exactly.
Because if you're trying to make it in the WWE, it's not that it's not true now, but if you're trying, back in the day, it was even more so true. But
yes,
back then, you can go back, you can watch interviews with some of the guys that worked in the territories in the late '80s and early '90s. And you were on the road 340, 350 nights a year. You were working a show. You had a show on Monday. You had a show on Wednesday. You had a show on Saturday. You had to turn around, get up, and do it again on Monday.
And I can name a few of them that was that way back in the late '80s, early '90s. We had Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Sting. Who else? Hulk Hogan.
The master.
No,
yeah, but those aren't those.
Those four right there are the ones I can think of right now that no matter what, they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are the guys that I'm.
And show they were there.
Yeah, but those are the guys that I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the guys like Waller and those kind of guys. The guys that were working the territories at that time.
Oh, okay.
I mean, once you made it to the show, you made it. But I think the brutal schedules that those guys kept. Guys like I just watched a video about that guy. Oh god, he was friends with Abdullah the Butcher. He was murdered. He got stabbed.
Yeah, I know who you think.
Down in Puerto Rico.
Oh.
Brody.
Yeah, Brody.
Bruiser Brody.
Yep.
Those are the kind of guys that I was thinking of doing the hard drugs and having the hard life. on the road constantly. You'll fly down and do three shows in Puerto Rico, be back in Miami to do a show in Miami at the beach. Yeah, they work Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget the funk.
Oh yeah.
All over the place.
Oh yeah, the Funks, because they didn't. Yeah, the Funks, those guys.
The Von Erichs.
Yeah.
Yep. They were the kind of guys that that lived that hard lifestyle. That were a drink to sleep and cocaine to get up and do it again. Downers to go down, uppers to get up. No, you wanted to say something, Brad? I'm sorry, we cut you off.
No, I was going to say there are a couple things. I remember you guys were talking about missing spots. If you remember in the WCW, Goldberg kicked Bret Hart and caused a concussion, and it ruined his career. Bret Hart ruined his career. So that was that. The other thing, I don't know if you guys watch YouTube. I think we all watch YouTube on here. Maven, who was one of the first to win Tough Enough, he has a channel. He explains all of this stuff about what drugs they were tested for, what goes on behind the scenes. So if you're interested in watching like behind the scenes stuff, he's really good at who he worked with, who he doesn't like, what they did in the background and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, and I was gonna say something about you talk about the Von Aaron, that movie, The Iron Claw. That movie is sad. That family is cursed, and it's sad that only one of them is alive. And I think he's got 13 grandkids or something like that.
Well, one of them does have a daughter that's trying to break into the industry, and that's Lacey Von Erich.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's got to be Gerald. There's only one of them left. The other three killed themselves, or one of them died of had a intestine blow during wrestling in Japan. The other two committed suicide.
I know Kerry Von Erich. He committed suicide.
Yeah, was that the one that shot himself in the chest?
Yes.
To the youngest one?
Yes.
In his own house. In their own front yard of their house.
Yeah,
and then
he walked outside. He walked outside, got on his knees, took the gun, and
shot himself in the chest. The other one that committed suicide was he got slammed or something happened to him, and he passed out, and he went into a coma. And he came out of a coma and he was not himself. Like he liked to play the guitar. He couldn't play the guitar. So he killed himself. He thought he'd be better off. And again, the suffering part, you guys were talking about pain relievers and stuff like that. That's the whole thing. Like Adam was referring to, you do 3 or 4 shows, in a 2-day period. Well, your body can't take that kind of punishment. So you take pain relievers, and you take uppers and downers, and you drink alcohol, you do cocaine, heroin, or whatever it might be to get you to sleep, whatever.
Your drug of choice.
Smoke a little green, smoke that green.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is that gets you up and get you moving in the morning. And after a while, look at Scott Hall. I mean, Scott Hall is a perfect example of how somebody's life was
spirals
because of his alcohol issues. I mean, again,
Kevin Nash was another one.
Thank God,
Billy Gunn.
Thank God for DDP for bringing him back, bringing Jake the Snake back. All these guys that were having issues, but yeah, I mean, I mean, and then I saw something today that Vince. You were talking about Vince McMahon. He's got another lawsuit. Some other. Woman in the WWE was passed off to wrestlers to keep her job. I'm like, well, he's just all these the one domino falls, they all fall because it's starting to all fall around him.
That's super gross.
So WWE, because of all these lawsuits.
Yeah, because
who
now the guy doesn't oh, Jesus.
I don't know if that sale ever went through or not, because it was supposed to be some Saudi group.
It did go through.
I was going to say, they announced that it did go. Dana White and
Was it was it Dana White's group?
Dana White's group is who owns it. But correct
And
me if I'm wrong, guys.
Speaking of The
Isn't
Rock,
Dana White going to sell UFC, or has that not happened yet?
that hasn't happened yet. But
Okay.
The Rock is on the board of directors with this. With
I
this
saw
new
that too,
company
Gerald. I saw that today too.
that,
Yep.
that bought WWE. And if you go back and watch Tuesday's episode of NXT, Ava Raine, which is The Rock's daughter, is the NXT general manager now.
Gotcha.
Ain't nothing like a little nepo to get you by.
And a lot of people don't understand this. Wrestling, about 90% of it is fake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you have your 10%.
No secret there.
You have this 10% that's an oh shit moment where you get hurt.
Yeah. It's 90% fake, 10% concussions.
Exactly. Look what happened to Big E. He jumped off backwards off the ring and broke his neck.
Well, it's like Brad said about Goldberg. And Goldberg,
Yeah.
Bret Hart still hates his guts to this day. It's been almost 30 years. He's still.
Yeah,
I don't think you could put the two in a dark room and there's only one walking out of that room.
Yeah. Yep.
I wouldn't want to be Bill Goldberg in a dark alley near the Hearts. And that's another family that's been plagued by tragedy.
Yeah. Owen
Hart, and then their dad. I can't remember.
Didn't Owen Hart die in a ring of a heart attack?
That was getting killed.
No, he broke his neck.
No, he fell. He broke his neck. He fell.
fell.
He was on a suspension. Broke his
wire,
his head.
And that wire broke. Okay.
Yeah, he was coming.
Yeah.
The shitty thing about that whole incident was they were getting ready to give him his big push. I want to say it was 94, but it might have been 96. Don't quote me on that. But I want to say it was 94. And they were getting ready to give him his push. He was going to get his first big push, and he had to do this one last bit as the Blue Blazer, and he comes down. They spotlight hits him. And that's cute. He gets up there, and he's about halfway down, and the rope snaps. The line snaps, and he was dead when he hit the floor.
And another one you can look at Seth Rollins. He tore his MCL.
Yeah, and sometimes
that's one of those oh shit moments. Like
right.
Speaking
and
of Seth Rollins, Adam's right. He's one of those bad guys you cheer for. I hate Seth Rollins with a passion, but you like him as a bad guy. He's a likable guy, and he's a lucky son of a bitch. Compared to Becky Lynch, he's a lucky son of a bitch. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But that's
Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins makes a better heel than he does a face.
Yes, he does.
Some guys do. Some guys make better heels than they do faces. And so when they try to the guys who I'm talking about that don't make good heels are the unlikable guys, like the Usos, like Jinder Mahal. Those guys that are so arrogant and irritating that you can't. It's now that you're rooting against him, like a Seth Rollins, where you're rooting against him but you still like him. Like I could see a world where I wouldn't buy a Seth Rollins shirt, but if somebody gave me a Seth Rollins shirt, I wouldn't set it on fire.
Well,
but if somebody,
Adam, you brought up a good point, because there's a match that comes to mind when you mention fire. Remember when Randy Orton went up against the Fiend? And Randy poured gas on the Fiend, and then let that match and threw it on him. Everybody thought that was real.
Right. Yeah. But that's what you're going for, right? It's
real.
But if you go back and look at it, okay, because I looked at it real closely, you can see a far suit under under the Fiend's costume that he wore. There was a false
Right.
under that.
And there's a lot of tricks that the if you're really interested in the ins and outs, it's like magic, right? I think that's the other thing that's killed the WWE is it's lost its magic, and not just WWE but wrestling in general. It's that there's no magic left. It's as much as I like knowing how things work and knowing the ins and outs and the little details that make it all come together. Some of that you can't, with the way the internet is, a 10 or 11-year-old kid that's just now getting into WWE or just now getting into wrestling. And I think that's the other thing that's a big what's the word I'm looking for?
There's one thing that I miss in the WWE, and you can go back to the early years and watch it. It's these hardcore matches.
Well, I was gonna say that. So I'm gonna piggyback off what you're saying, and it's a detriment to the brand because kids that are getting into wrestling now. Let's say if we not obviously none of us had 10-year-old children, but let's say we had 10-year-old kids. They said, let's watch some wrestling. You put WWE, you put Raw on, you put last week's Raw on. Like, okay, it's okay, it's cool. And then you go to YouTube and you pull up hours and hours and hours of wrestling programming from decades ago. You want to watch NWA, watch AWA, you want to watch WWF, WCW, ECW, Japan. You can watch indie stuff. From you can watch the territory. You want to watch. I can't remember what.
Midwest Wrestling.
Yeah, Ohio Championship Valley Wrestling from 1992. You can watch all of that stuff. You cut out all the crap, right? You cut out all the really boring singing segments, the goofy shit. Like, you don't have to sit there and watch a 15-minute squash match with the gobbledygooker.
Yes.
Is that a deep pull? Let's see. That feels like a deep pull. You don't have to watch the Giant Gonzalez. You don't have to sit through an 8-minute squash match between Giant Gonzalez and The Undertaker, or whatever he was calling himself. I think he had just finally debuted The Undertaker's character. I think that was the first Undertaker match.
And that's killing WWE. Is they have the same storyline week after week after week after week. No, they had
decade after decade.
Yep.
Century after century.
Just look at Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. That went on for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Right.
And no payoff. No payoff. Because you've seen it half a dozen times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's something that I ranted about all these factions that they have right now. But whether it was whether it was the Nexus or Shield or
Bloodline,
the Bloodline or the
Judgment Day.
Thank you. That was the other one from Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley and her 4 Stooges.
Everybody thinks that Damon Priest runs Judgment Day. It's Rhea Ripley runs Judgment Day.
Yeah, Rhea's always run Judgment Day, in my opinion.
New Day. Put the New Day in that category.
Oh God, the New Day is so insufferable. Those are good guys that I can't stand. I can't stand the New Day. They're just.
It sucks. We're never going to see Big E back. That's what sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not going to see Big E back.
Big E may come back, but come back as a manager for New Day.
Yeah, I never bought the New Day gimmick. I could never get into the gimmick. The gimmick was just so irritating.
I tell you,
I never liked it.
That can I get into, and that's pretty deadly. Those 2 blonde morons.
And but to finish up what I was saying about like someone now, you can cut out the And the other thing is that if you're not like if you're a 10-year-old kid trying to get into WWE, and you go back, you don't have to watch the 20-minute soliloquy by, oh god, I can't remember, the one guy. He always came out in his bathrobe and talked a whole bunch of junk and was really annoying.
Right.
I can't. I can see his stupid face. He always came out in his bathrobe and used big words and talked like we were all really stupid.
His last name
Damien
was
Sandow.
Rude. His last name was
Sandow.
Rude. What was his first name?
Damien Sandow.
Yeah.
And there was another one too. His last name was Rude. He used to do the same thing.
All I'm coming up with is Rick Rude, but that's not.
Robert Roode was another one that used
Okay.
to do
it. And those characters just irritate the piss out of me. And so so the other thing, the thing that I was saying is that you can go back and you can watch Taker Mankind off the steel cage. You can watch Mankind win the title for the first time, and you don't have to sit through.
And
You don't have to sit.
Orton and Mankind in the steel cage when those two fell, like 20 feet onto the announce
Undertaker.
table. Undertaker, both of them fell 20 feet onto the announce table.
Yeah, that's the Mankind Taker and steel cage match. It's the same match, but you can watch. You don't have to sit through an hour and a half of nonsense to get to one good match. You can watch any great match. It may not be the greatest quality, or you can get your dad to sign up for WWE TV or the Peacock if your parents got Peacock, and you can watch all the great matches without all the nonsense, without having to sit there for 20 minutes listening to Damien Sandow tell everyone how he thinks they're a bunch of rubes. Oh, great! He's back out here.
I was going through YouTube one day, one evening, and I came across the Rumble from 1995.
Exactly.
And that 1995 Rumble, that was the best Rumble they had.
And that's my point. That's the perfect illustration of my point. Is that you cut out you can.
Now you got all these damn mid card matches that you got to go through before you can get to the main event.
But the problem with that is the mid card sucks.
It does.
None of those guys are ever going to be. None of those guys are ever going to be main eventers, and that's the problem. Because those guys need to be. You need to push your mid cards to the main event, and rotate your main event guys. Keep new guys coming up. Keep fresh guys coming up. Creating interesting and dynamic characters where people want to come, where people want to be invested, where you get people invested in the characters and then pay them off with wins. You can't have Roman Reigns. Apparently, I have a list now. You can't. No, Wascally.
Kill the rabbit. Kill the rabbit.
No, Drew McIntyre. That's real. And also, if you go back and look at the great matches, look at the Great Khali versus Big Show.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because both of them were big men.
Yeah, the Khali wasn't a great worker though. From the handful of interviews I've saw about guys working with him, he was stiff and he couldn't move. His knees were so bad.
The funniest fashion that I found so far, okay, was D-Generation X. Hilarious.
Yeah.
They were I think they got to be right up there with the Four Horsemen.
Especially the way they would talk about Vince McMahon.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't do nothing but laugh when they started doing that.
Oh, this was a disaster.
When Shawn Michaels came out dressed up as Vince McMahon, he did Vince's walk all funny, wearing the black wig, and and that's and I think that's the big thing is that the WWE hasn't in the 70s WWE was one thing, and they tried to sell you on the idea of it being real, right? And you got people invested in wrestling under the guise that it was all real, right? And then in the 80s, people started to catch on, so they made it about big guys, tough, muscular, manly men doing manly things while beating each other up in their underwear, wearing baby oil, but that's neither here nor there. And then in the 90s was all about when after the steroid abuse stuff came out, and they moved away from the big, burly, tough men in their underwear dipped in baby oil, and they moved into the more gimmicky side of it, and they made it about violence. They made it about they let the underdog coming up, and then you had the ruthless aggression era with guys like John Cena and Randy Orton and other guys like that, and the tail end of the tail end of the Attitude. Some of the Attitude guys like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, as they were moving on and going to the twilight of their careers, and then they moved into the PG era, and and of course it was a different product for a different generation, and it just didn't capture the cultural zeitgeist like the 80s, like the 70s guys or the 80s guys or the 90s guys did, especially the 90s guys, because of course WWE was doing numbers in 1990, 10 million for a Monday Night Raw. It's insane.
I don't interrupt you, Adam, but when you said bad guys of the 90s, a name popped into my head.
Name it.
Go for it.
If I say this name, you will know who I'm talking about. Hey, Chico! Razor Ramon.
Oh, Razor Ramon. Okay. The first thing that I thought of was Eddie Guerrero. Eddie was a great bad guy.
You're right. Yeah.
He was great as a heel.
But I think that, and I think that the problem is WWE doesn't have an identity right now.
No, they don't.
Whether it was the 70s with guys were you were sold on the idea of these guys that the matches weren't fixed, that it was all real, and these were real dudes doing the things, or the 80s with where they moved away from the real stuff and they got into the big burly tough guys, guys like Hulk Hogan and Lex Luger,
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Austin comes later.
But I'm just naming the ones that I can think of right now.
Right. And so you have this steroid era, right? And then of course in the early 90s, the steroid abuse comes out, right? And they move away from steroids and they go into more gimmick characters, right? Even more gimmicky characters like Austin, like Undertaker, Kane. The guys that my generation grew up on. Those guys that were superstars. And then you have the PG era where everything is sanitized and there's no bad language and there's no blood and the violence is way toned down. And you're not doing the high flying big spots like you were seeing. You won't see somebody being thrown off a steel cage anymore because it's just too dangerous, and we know it's too dangerous. And this new era, the 2020s, this era of wrestling, as they move back, as they've tried to pivot away from the sanitized, scrubbed, cleaned up version of WWE, because people don't like that, people don't want that anymore, and they just haven't found a direction. They haven't created a cast of characters that people have latched onto, like they latched onto the guys in the 70s, the guys in the 80s, whether it be Andre the Giant or Hulk Hogan, or 90s guys like Stone Cold and Mick Foley, or the 2000 guys like Randy and Cena. You know, this new from 2013 was because that was the last time I really watched WWE with any interest. Till now, this last 10-year period, this last decade of WWE programming, they haven't found a niche like they did in the every time that they've gone into trouble, every time they've had a brand crisis, for want of a better term, an identity crisis in the brands, Vince was able to pivot. Whether it was people weren't buying the realism of the 70s, so he pivoted to something different in the 80s. And people were, couldn't do the steroid stuff, so you pivoted to more gimmicky characters in the 90s. And that era was burned hot and burned fast and was done. And they pivoted to more of an aggressive, high-flying, big spot type wrestling to, with blood and hardcore wrestling was really big at that time. And of course, too many kids putting each other through tables and pissing their moms off, which, that's bad for business. Your moms won't let you watch the WWE, so we got to clean it up. And, and then of course, then to go into the whole PG era with the, hey, these were trained professionals, we know what we're doing, don't do this at home. Mm-hmm. To now, where they try to come out of the PG era and go more TV-14, be a more mature product for a more mature audience, and they haven't found a brand identity in this new era of WWE yet. And of course, obviously, they're still printing money. It's not like they're not printing money. It's not like those guys are. It's not like the top guys are living in the poorhouse and not out there begging for spare change. But from about 1995 till about 2015, if you were a WWE guy, you were made man. Definitely from 99. Maybe that's too long of a stretch, but from 98 to about 2006, if you were you were a made man. If you were in the WWE, you were a made man. You were in the club, and people they got movie spots. Ted freaking DiBiase Jr. got a movie, for Christ's sake. Dude can't act. He couldn't act his way out of a paper bag. And I know Shakespearean actor. I'm not gonna be doing Broadway anytime soon. But Ted DiBiase can't act. And he got a movie. So if you were a WWE guy, of course it might have been the Marine 3, direct to DVD, but it's still a movie.
Sorry, guys, hang on a minute. I gotta bring this comment up on the screen here real quick. I'm sorry.
All right, go for it.
I'm not sure where this comment came from, but I have to share this. So I just.
Hello, Ralph.
Ralph.
That's wrong, Ralph.
I want to get back into writing for you, my man.
I actually was working on an article right before we got on the show. So
I want to start doing NASCAR writing again.
Yeah.
I got so busy last summer that I just didn't have time for it, and it kind of fizzled out on me. So I want to try to get back into it this year.
It's coming back next month.
The beginning of February.
Yeah,
we're training.
2 weeks. No, it's 2 weeks or about a month. About a month now. And
we're going to hear the famous words in NASCAR. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Yes.
The Clash is on the 4th, and then the 500's on the 18th.
Oh, so they don't do the duels anymore, do they?
Oh, yeah, the duels are on the Thursday before the 500.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, should be a good time.
We're driving that number 4 now since Kevin Harvick stepped away.
Josh Berry.
Is a week after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
President's Day weekend.
Yeah. Yep. Josh Berry got the 4. He'll be driving that 4 car next year, replacing Kevin Harvick. I'm excited to see what he.
That's gonna be interesting to see what he's got.
Mm.
I don't know. It's nice for a guy. I'm really happy for him. Because
Oh, they're killing.
he's kind of that old school came up from nothing kind of driver. In the vein of the early days of NASCAR, where you could work your way up to a top tier ride. Something that hasn't, if you didn't have a name or money, you weren't gonna get a ride, And he got discovered. He used to drive Dale Jr.'s late model car. For years, he drove Dale Jr.'s late model car, and they gave him a call. I think they needed a driver. Well, I think that was when they let Michael Annett go, and they needed a driver, and they gave him a shot. And he made the most of his opportunity. Now he's gonna drive the Ford for Stuart Haas. Really happy for him. Real proud of what he's done. I don't expect big things. If he has a top 20 points finish, and can lead some laps and run up front, and he can average 20th or 21st, 18 to 21, average finish. I think that's a successful year. That's a really solid, successful year. Now he's an older driver. I think he'll be 33 at some point this year. So he's starting later in life, But when you get an opportunity, you got to make the most of it, and he's done that so far. He's got a handful of Xfinity wins, and he's a talented. I hate the word younger driver is kind of oxymoronic with the man, because he's not exactly a spring chicken. But I think that something that I commented on TikTok, because I watch a lot of NASCAR content on TikTok, but is some of the younger drivers coming up. One that I highlighted was Riley Herbst, and he struggled over the last couple of years, but he's only 24, and we got so spoiled over the last 20, 30 years now. Jesus Christ, it's almost 30 years, Jeff Gordon made his debut 32 years ago now. And, he started driving for Rick. But you had guys like Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, Joe Jr., Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kane, the Bushes. They came along, that's a dozen guys right there. As Joey Logano, they all came along. And they won races right out of the gate, right? They won races in top tier. They got top tier Cup rides and won races and won several races and led laps and ran up front and were a victim of their own, a lot of their problems were they were a victim of their own creation. They were a victim of their own making.
Success happens a lot.
Yeah. But we look at all these guys, and then we look at some of these younger guys coming up, like Harrison Burton or Riley Herbst, or you take a handful of these young guys, and they're not winning right away, and everybody goes, well, what's wrong with them? It's something my dad said 4 or 5 years ago now, is that the rookies rookies have returned to NASCAR. You have to learn how to drive a Cup car. It's not just jump in and go win, like it was. You get paired up with a great crew chief that can set up a car, and you can just get in and turn left and go fast and win every week. It doesn't matter whether you're running Daytona or you're running Martinsville, or there's Talladega or it's Phoenix. Two completely different racetracks. Totally different styles of racing you gotta be able to do, and you get in and be successful. It takes time to learn how to be competitive at the top level. Now, because especially this new car, that's has this one party system that they have, one manufacturer, where all the chassis are all the same, the parts are all the same. The only thing that's different is the body, everybody has the same equipment now, so it's your ability to drive the car, your crew chief's ability to set up a car, the car chief's ability to diagnose a problem and get it fixed, and give the crew chief, it's drivers giving the crew chief the feedback, the crew chief giving the car chief feedback, and with the limited practice and no testing, it really is about what you can do with a car the way it is. And so it's really leveled the playing field, where you're seeing 16, 17, 18 different guys winning year in and year out now. You're not having the 3 or 4 guys go out and win 9 races. You're not having 3 guys win 21 races amongst themselves. 8 wins for one guy, 5 wins for another, and 7 wins for a third. You got 7 wins with one guy, 8 wins with another guy, and 3 wins for a third guy. And it's those 3 you got those 3 penciled in at the end of the year in the championship, and then who's 4th. Now you have this system where anybody can win on any given Sunday, and it's just it's a matter of being able to drive the race car.
Would you consider it better now than it was before, with more winners than it was in the past when you only dominate? Well, you guys are NASCAR fans. You tell me. I'm not.
Right.
I tried to go to a race in 2023, but Mother Nature decided it didn't want to let me do that. So you let me know.
Exactly.
I like it. I think it keeps it interesting. I think it makes it more fun.
Okay.
Where where it's not going to be 3 guys dominating every week. Where you tune in on Sunday. Any years past, when it was, whether it was Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson dominating everything but Miss America, or it was, Kevin Harvick and Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski dominating everything but Miss America. And, if you were a fan of a guy, from 2002 to 2017, you penciled Jimmy Johnson in every week. Now that guy, you only have one of those guys now. You say, okay, who's going to win? Who's going to win the 500? Okay, 500 is a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a roll of the dice. And so who does it? It depends on who stays on all 4 wheels for 200 or more laps. Because you know that they're going to wad them up coming off a 4 on the last lap. Which they're going to wad them up on the first lap. They're going to wad them up on the last lap. And it's just, it's a fight to survive at Daytona. But then you go out west and you go to Vegas or you go to Phoenix, and you don't know. Okay, yeah, Kyle Busch is going to be good because Kyle Larson. Who gave me a speaking job? I don't get paid for this, so it's not really a job. But Kyle Larson's going to be good. Kyle Larson's going to be Kyle Busch is going to be top. Blaney's going to win a couple here, 2, 3 there. But, and I like the diversity. I like the fact that it could be anybody. It could be anybody on a given week. You're not going to get the same 3 or 4 or 5 guys. And it's like, oh, great. Jimmy Johnson won again. Even though I'm a Jimmy Johnson fan, so it was no skin off my back. Jimmy won again. It could be, it could be Chase Elliott. It could be William Byron. It could be Alex Bowman. It could be Kyle Larson. It could be anybody. The way that the racing has evolved since the new car came in, where you don't know, where you got to tune in to see who's going to win. And you'll have, and the fact that the cars are so dynamic. And you can have a guy dominate 220 out of 300 laps, and you get that last pit cycle. When you're coming down to 50 to go, or 20 or 30 to go, or you got 30 to go. Everybody makes their if this is the last scheduled stop. You come down, you get tires and fuel, and we're good to the end. And then you get a caution with 5 to go, and everybody else who comes, who stays. It's the decision making. It's everything that goes into winning a race at the end of the race. It's all the decisions you make throughout the things that happen where you just stay in it. You get down early and you can make up that ground. Whereas in years past, if you pounded the wall, you cut down a tire and you got 3 laps down. If you cut a tire and you didn't do any body damage, in years past you got 3 laps down, your day was shot. You were hoping, you were praying that you get a couple of cautions, maybe a big one, you make up 5 or 10 spots. Salvage 25th place day. But you keep all 4 fenders on it, you got at least 2 guaranteed cautions. So you got those in the bank. You can keep all 4 fenders on it, come down, get fresh tires, get back out there. You might lose a lap, maybe 2. But if you didn't do too much damage to the car, with the guaranteed cautions later on in the race, that you have an opportunity to make it up. So you get focused up, get your head back in the game, and you're not down. You're not down 21 points at half. And so I personally, I think it's great.
Yes.
And I'll yield the floor. What do you think, Joe?
I agree with you, Adam.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's I love stage racing. I think stage racing is excellent. I've been to non-stage races. I've been to 2 races at Michigan and 1 at Talladega, and I went to Charlotte, but I didn't get to see a race. But Mother Nature had other plans. But right. the 2 races, the race in '99 at Michigan, I don't really remember because I was 7. But I remember being there, and I got pictures and seeing Earnhardt and Gordon, in the heyday of their rivalry. And then going back in '09 and seeing that, and 3/4 throttle down the backstretch, halfway down the backstretch, lefting and coasting into 3. And coasting all the way around 3 and 4, and the 3/4 throttle down the front stretch to just coast into 1 for 65 laps to stretch a fuel run out and try and make it isn't good racing. I'm sorry, I that's just not good racing. I hate fuel economy races. I hate when they're not racing, when they're just riding for the last 60 laps, hoping that their driver is good on throttle, smooth through the corners, no brake, barely any gas, staying off the brake, rolling out early, staying off the brake, coasting through the corner, and coasting all the way through the corner, picking up the throttle at the late apex of the corner, and then not going wide open coming off of 4 or coming off of 2. It just makes for insufferably unwatchable racing, in my opinion. I know there's a certain segment of the fan base that thinks it's not real racing because they have manufactured cautions. But I like a 5 wide finish. I understand owners might not like a 5 wide 40 car pileup. I'm not exactly a fan of the 40 car pileup, but it's more entertaining. It's a better product if there's a late race restart and you have 2 or 3 of them. That's a better product.
Much better.
A 10-9 punt fest is not a great game. Sorry. It's not a defensive struggle, it's an offensive struggle.
That's exactly
because both offenses struggled all night. Yeah. And so that's my thoughts on it. I love it. I'm excited for Daytona. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to get back into writing for Ralph. I'm hoping that I can polish my articles, and they'll be a little bit better than they were last year. You know, took it on the chin. It was a little bit disheartening because I was rereading some of my articles. I'm like, who wrote this? Who gave him a writing job? So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to proofreading my articles. So those will hopefully be coming back. I gotta talk to Ralph. I haven't talked to Ralph yet. But so that's where I'm at on that, and we want to close the show out with the championship games.
Real quick before we get into that, I got a new writing gig too. I'll be writing. I'll be writing about USF baseball and softball. I got credentials to both. So, and I've never been to a baseball or college softball game. So, I'm excited.
Neither have I.
So
I've never been to a college baseball game.
So
I don't watch Tigers games.
College
I got
football I have. College baseball no.
got credentials the other day for softball, and the guy for the baseball said that he would get back to me the next week or two to get everything set up for credentials for baseball. So yes, yes. But we can close out the show. Thank you. With the
congratulations, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With the
Good luck.
It's honestly, guys, I feel a little humble because it's not something that's football related. So it's a different
or hockey
or lacrosse or lacrosse as well. I'll be covering that this year too. But
well, I will say I've if you don't read the man's articles, you should. They're very well written.
Yes.
He writes like he talks. You know, he ain't gonna bullshit you. You can ask Ray's management. He ain't gonna bullshit you. He gonna tell you how he feels it is. Right or wrong, he's gonna tell you how he feels it is. You know,
I don't think Ray's ownership likes me too much.
Well, they like you enough to give you a credential, so.
Well, it's a one game. I got one game out of it.
You got one. That's one more than the rest of us here. So you got that going for you.
Ownership doesn't like me. Ownership doesn't like me too much.
They made him sit in the corner with his back to the field, but he was there.
You know what's funny about that situation is the seat that I got in the press box was in the last row, directly behind home plate. I'm like, really? Like, I got the best view in the freaking building. I'm like, oh, I got right behind home plate. What's going on? What happened? So yeah.
What he doesn't tell you is that after the game they took him down to the basement and beat him with the brass knuckles like 21.
Casino. Like casino. Yeah.
I was thinking 21 because that was my.
Yeah.
I love that movie. One of my favorite movies of all time.
But yes, I did apply for credentials again for the Rays this year. So let's see how many games I get, because I know Ralph goes, oh, they don't pay attention, and I go, okay, really? Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Well, I could see, I could see them not worrying about some no-name sports writer. Okay, it's one guy, whatever. But when you're applying for credentials, yeah, they're reading your stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They think they have their people take a look at it and they know what you've said. And apparently you've said something right. But yes.
Yeah, so I guess it'll be different writing about college baseball and college softball this year.
And so
what do you got?
How about them Lions?
AFC or NFC championship game?
Yes.
NFC.
Well, how about them Lions? We'll start in the NFC.
NFC?
Yeah.
You know, I've never been more happy to be wrong in my entire life. I've dogged Dan Campbell since day one. I've been incredibly hard on him because and even in this season, even when they were winning games, you know, I looked at the games they won versus the games they lost, and I saw a team that was beating bad teams but getting beat by good teams. And you know, when it comes down to it, the rah meathead football guy, you know, it's all we're biting kneecaps. It was great for a press conference, but I just didn't see the football mind of Dan Campbell, the guy that can get us in a team that's down by 10 or down by 15 at half. You know, a team that's down by 15 at half that can rally. A team that's down by 10 with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter that can come back and at least get it close. I hadn't seen that yet. And, you know, this Lions team, a team that weathered the storm, you know, it took a tie game to the half that had Tampa come back on. You know, they had Tampa tied it up at 17. And they put their foot in the ground and they went forward. And they didn't fold up and go away like so many other teams that Detroit has had even in some of the good years, in the 9 and 7 years under I'm not oh god, I can see his face. He used to be with the Colts. The guy before Matt Patricia. Jim something. Jim.
Schwartz.
No, not Schwartz.
Jim Caldwell. Jim
Caldwell, thank you. You know, in the Jim Caldwell era, as short-lived as it was, there were many times in those back-to-back 9 and 7 years where they missed the playoffs, but were good but missed the playoffs. You're good but not great, good but not good enough to get there. Where they were down by 10 at the half. When they got tied up at 17, you know, it's in previous iterations of this team, where they would get down by, you know, even going back to the Barry years. Yeah, Barry would have $120 on the ground and 2 touchdowns, but they were down 34-17. Yeah, Barry had 18, 20, 22 carries for $125, but the only reason he had $125 is because he had broken off a 60-yard run. Mm-hmm. He had 19 carries for 65 yards, and he pops a big one. He goes for 60 yards, gets him down to the 25, and then they putter out, and they kick a field goal, and it's 13-24. And there's 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And Tampa gets the ball. You know, Tampa gets the ball back, and they march. They get down to the Lions 45 and take 4.5 minutes off the clock, punt, and okay, here we go. Go down. We got to go quick score. 3 incompletions, and that's game. 3 quick incompletions, and that's game. And you know, I've been incredibly hard on Dan Campbell and his football philosophy, but you know what I saw last Sunday afternoon was a football team that rallied around each other, that bought in, that believed they could win, and then went out and executed. And they got stops, and they got scores, and they made the game. They played their game. They didn't get away from what they wanted to do, and they did what they wanted to do, and they beat a very competitive Bucs team, and a team that going into the year wasn't supposed to be there, a 4-win team. And Baker, you know, all props to Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles, because I know Tampa Bay media was incredibly hard on Bowles after last year, and there were people calling for his head going into this year. And
mid-season they were calling for his head.
And so I got to give big ups to Tampa. I put my money where my mouth is. I put 50 cents on the Lions to win.
Yeah.
Straight up. I got Detroit straight up. I think you know it's a matter. I look at this game and what it will take for Detroit to win. It's the same thing as it takes any other team to beat any other team. Is solid fundamental football.
Yes.
No turnovers, no penalties, capitalize on your opportunities, and any kick is a good kick. That means punting on 4th and 3 from your own 40. That means punting on 4th and 2 from your own 40.
Mm-hmm.
It means going for it on 4th and 1 from your own 40. And not getting away from what you do. That aggressive heart, you win or lose how you win or lose. Play your game. Don't worry about the noise. Don't worry about the weapons that San Francisco has. And they got CMC and Ayuk and Samuels and Purdy, and they got all those defensive guys. And don't get away from what you do. Don't try to go out there and play San Francisco football. Stay true to who you are. Run the ball. Control the ball. Best defense is a good offense. A couple of 8-minute drives. Wear that San Francisco defense down. Keep the San Francisco offense on the field. Get a 10 or 14 point lead in the fourth quarter. Make San Francisco have to drive the full 75 yards. Make them take 5 minutes off the clock. Yeah, they might score. They might score a touchdown even. But it's 24-20 with 3.5 minutes to go, and you just got to go out there and two first down, game's over. And I think that's the way Detroit wins this Sunday. Is they play solid, fundamental football, no turnovers, no bad penalties, make the plays that are there to be made, and play Lions football. Let the chips fall where they may. They've played rough side drag football all year. Don't get away from that. Don't get cute. Don't try to go out there and high fly with the 49ers. You ain't got to get in a shootout with them. That's the last thing I want to do is get in a shootout with San Francisco and trade punches with San Francisco. Get in there, turn it into a dogfight, get in close. Don't let San Francisco extend its arms. Get in close, stay in close, body blow, body blow, body blow, body blow, body blow. Right. And pick your spots, and uncork one. And I think that's the easiest way for Detroit to win. And I'm taking the Lions. I'm taking the Lions 24-20.
I like that pick, too.
Yeah.
That pick, too.
The Lions have been my sleeper pick all year. I mean, nobody expected them to do, as they did. But, Jared Goff has been their weapon. And he can stay in this game. I think Detroit is going to give, the 49ers a run for the money. And, Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy, has not really stepped up in, games such as this, the fantasy games. So I think Detroit's going to, Detroit has enough to overtake San Francisco, and my sleeper pick is going to remain, the sleeper pick.
And not to dog Purdy out, I think he's a really talented young quarterback.
Yeah,
he hasn't had a lot of big moments yet. And I think Detroit has to keep it for being Brock Purdy's coming out party, because if Purdy gets going and they can hit the big play, it's going to be a long day for that Detroit secondary. I think you gotta play smart on the back end, keep everything in front of you, and make your damn tackles. Tackle. Gotta tackle. Because if Purdy can uncork a couple and can get some momentum, and then they can turn around and feed CMC, it's going to be a long, long Sunday night.
The line is the Niners are a 7.5 point favorite. The over/under is 51 and a hook. So
I'm taking this.
I hate to do this to Adam. I know he's my brother and everything. My brother from another mother. But I got to go against him and say the 49ers 24-20.
Huh.
Flip the score on me, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
for
I'm
one
staying-
reason,
I'm
and you
staying
brought up a
Detroit's
good
my
point
number
there,
17.
Adam, is the 49ers have got a great defense.
I don't disagree. I 100% agree. No, I think if San Francisco wins, I think San Francisco wins going away. It's like 41-17, and Detroit's not really ever in the game. You know, if Purdy gets going, and that San Francisco defense is as fearsome as they want you to believe it is, and I hard pressed to disagree. And San Francisco defense has looked pretty good, but I think you take that Packers game tape from last week and you analyze what they did. They had a lead late in the fourth quarter, and they had a shot to come back, but Jordan Love was pressing, and he was trying to he was playing hero ball, and made one mistake more than Purdy made, and that was the difference in the game.
So if
So they
I
just-
was
they
to
just
do
found all your-
this, if I take the Lions in the over/under overall winner, and I take them as the underdog, if I put $15 on it on the Hard Rock app, I would win $37. That all comes true. Just to let you guys know. So
There you go. I'm taking the Lions too.
I haven't bet anything yet, but I'm thinking this might be the weekend that I do it. Right. I mean, I lose 15, but on the flip side of it, if I win 37. So,
There you
I have
go.
to look at it.
Not a bad bet.
I'll look at it later. But
I like to play, so I put every now and again I'll play. I put $10 in at the beginning of last year, like March of last year, and that lasted me all year. And I bet 50 cents a pop, 50 cents here, 50 cents there, just for fun. I wasn't trying to make money. I was just having fun with it.
What
Right.
app is that?
I'm sorry.
I use
What
FanDuel.
I use the Hard Rock Bet app that's legal in my state in Florida.
FanDuel is legal in Tennessee, so I use FanDuel. I like FanDuel. DraftKings is okay. I've used them before.
Now, okay,
FanDuel is fun.
Let's say, Brad, on the odds you gave, let's say if you bet 50 cents, how much would you win?
I
230.
I don't know, Gerald. I think the minimum bet is 5. Let me see if it'll let me bet under $5. But I think minimum is 5.
I'm talking about on FanDuel.
The minimum on FanDuel is 9. I think because I did a 2-leg parlay. I think if I get them both right, because I took the Ravens. I got the Lions and the Ravens. And I think I'm in line to win 237 for 50 cents.
Okay,
297
so
something. I'll look it up later and I'll let you know.
Okay.
If I put 50 cents, guys, on each of those bets, I can win $3.78. You can't put 50 cents down on a bet. Yeah. So you can do that. I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah, I just do it. I just do it for the fun of it because I like to gamble, but I don't want to lose my shirt. I'm not one of those. I don't have a gambling problem. I just like to have fun with it. So I like put $10 in every now and again, and
Okay.
I bet you that's Bob.
It's his wife Samantha. She's a big
Okay.
Mike Evans fan.
Yeah.
And also the Bucs lost Dave Canales because he's going to be the new head coach in Carolina. So
Carolina.
he took the Carolina job today, and I believe the Rams traded away picks to Atlanta to get.
No, Los Angeles.
Raheem Morris, right? Is that who they signed?
Yeah, they lost Raheem Morris to the
Raheem Morris
the Rams.
going to Atlanta. So the only job that's now is the Washington gig because Jim Harbaugh is now the new head coach in LA. So it comes down to the only coaching job left is the Washington job. So
that would be a job that I would take. That'd be an interesting gig. I wouldn't mind the Washington job.
So you guys, so Adam, you like Baltimore? Who is?
I do.
Is anybody like Kansas City?
I don't hate the Kansas City pick. I'm gonna go with Detroit and Kansas City.
And people are gonna ask you, oh, how can you bet on a team that beat your team? Well, because if my team gets beat, I want to see that team go on and win. I don't want to see them blown out this weekend. I want to see them go out and beat San Francisco, get to the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. They've never gone, so let's give them a chance.
I really
to do that.
I've never rooted harder for the Packers in my entire life. I was so disappointed.
Hey, Adam.
Hey,
I'm sending something to your inbox. Check it out.
I'll take a look at it when we're done here. Yeah, no problem. But no, I don't hate the Kansas City pick. It's Patty Mahomes. It's Kelce. It's Mahomes. It's that defense has come on. There's opportunities for them to make plays. Pacheco's turned into a nice little piece in the backfield. I think this game hinges. I think the Detroit-San Francisco matchup is more compelling. I think, in terms of the, just in terms of the fact that Detroit, first time since '92, first time in my life that the Lions have made a conference championship game. So, but the Kansas City Baltimore game, I think will be a better game. I think that game's going to spiral out of control. I think 38-35 Baltimore. I can see it going either way.
It'd be a little hard, but
you're calling field goal wins by each team.
Field goal wins by each team, and I see Detroit being more of a because San Fran. It depends on the weather. I think the weather plays a big factor in both these games because Baltimore's outside too. And it could be a nasty, miserable afternoon in Baltimore. It could be in the 40s at kickoff. I'm not sure exactly what the weather forecast for Baltimore is for.
Let me look real quick and see what the
for Sunday night.
What they're calling.
But I know. Yeah, well, you're looking that up. Because San Francisco, it's Southern California. I don't expect back-to-back monsoons.
no.
So I think it'll be. And the weather will be really nice in San Francisco. Mid-60s, maybe even low 70s. A nice, clear, clean day, and I think the weather really won't be a factor in San Francisco, but the weather in Baltimore could be miserable.
All right, they're calling for 49.
49. Okay, 49 and clear.
Clear, yeah. I mean 49 and cloudy, so there's no
49, but no percent.
No snow or anything like that. No.
Okay, no snow, no rain.
Francisco game. The weather is 69 and sunny.
Oh,
in
69 and sunny. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because that game will kick off at 3:30 local time, or shortly thereafter, and so they'll be playing into the night, and that could wreak havoc on the quarterbacks early in the game, and the receiving game, and the running game. Every part of the game, kicking game, punt returning. because one of the things that I've heard a lot of defensive guys talk about on in the running game, and not so much in the pass game, but in the running game, where the guys disappear in the shadows, and then you're getting blocked, and then there he goes, he's by you because he's running out of the light into the shadows. Something that the defensive guys talk about. Now light shadows into light is more for the receiving game than it is for the quarterback play. It's catching the ball from shadow into the daylight, and so I think that's the one thing that I would worry about in terms of the San Francisco, and the weather in that game being playing a factor. And the other thing, the Baltimore game is, it's going to be overcast, so I have to worry about sun causing issues, and maybe it might be windy. That depends on whether how windy it is.
Mm-hmm.
You got 12 to 15 mile an hour winds gusting to 25. That'll wreak havoc on the passing game, and maybe in the kicking game. You might need an extra 5 or 10 yards to comfortably kick a field goal. But other than that, I don't think the weather will play too much of a factor. Kurt. Yes.
And with that, guys, you want to call it a show?
All right.
Okay.
Glue, go ahead and talk about your show.
All right. Well, we got a big show planned on Saturday called the Enhanced Sports Show, Saturday 4 to 6 p.m. We're going to cover, of course, the championship series. We'll recap the division series. We'll look at the NHL captains for the All-Star game. Some might surprise you, some might not. The NBA All-Star rosters. We'll even look at the first part of the NBA roster for the Olympics. Now, remember, the lines will change as we draw close to it. Right now, they have 41, but we'll be down to 12. So as the time goes on, we'll shrink down the list as well. College basketball, of course, as we now go into February. UFC and UFC and WWE news, of course. So, Gerald, hopefully you'll tune in for that. Of course, we'll also have Ridiculous Side of the Week, Sports Trivia, This Week in Sports History, the Feel Good Story of the Week, the Best and Worst of January, of course, and your thoughts and comments are always welcome. So, if you got time between 4 and 6 on the Eastern time zone, or 3 to 5 where you guys are, number is 512-543-4662. I'll repeat again, 512-543-4662. Hope to hear from you all.
With that, I want to thank everyone who watched the show, joined the show. It looks like, guys, Ashton wants to come back on, so we'll have to have her come back on in the near future. She was talking me off. So, yes, we'll have her back on. I want to thank everyone that tuned in and stayed on and watched the show, all the contributors that did that. Thank our sponsors. Thank the networks. Thank you so much for what you guys do. I want to thank our men and women of our armed services, our first responders as well. Thank you guys for doing what you do. We wouldn't be doing this had you guys not been doing what you guys do. We will be back, guys. Next week, it'll be the first week in February.
Thank goodness.
As we draw closer to the end of the football season, midway through the NBA, NHL season, we draw closer to March Madness. NASCAR's right around the corner. So, yeah, we got a lot of things coming up. But until then, guys, I want to say thank you. Love you guys. Until next week, I am the Sports Star Bradley Walker. Till then, peace.
Good night.
Cut, print, send it.